This is our meals series where we go through the real meals that I've been making for the last couple weeks. We started this meal series at the beginning of January 2025, and this is the 25th video in that series that we've been putting out every 2 weeks all year long. So you can see the different meals I'm making, the choices why I do it, and get to learn a little bit more about my life. If you're just meeting me, my name is Amy Cross, and this is The Cross Legacy, where I teach you how to save money on groceries and make really easy meals that you can serve your family. Our grocery budget is $270 per month because it's just my husband and I that live here in the house. But now that we have moved closer to our kiddos, we have family over for meals very often. I go grocery shopping once a month, and I love how this series has been able to show you what it looks like for meals right when I go grocery shopping and then as we're getting into the month. So for this video, I actually went grocery shopping just a few days before the start of this video, which starts on December 15th. And since we get asked about this all of the time, we have moved into our new house in September and people keep wanting to see the stove. So this is our stove. Sometimes the way that we have the camera set up, you can only see 2 of the burners, but it really does have 4 of the burners. So I wanted to make sure that I showed you that. And then there's also the oven, and there is also a warming compartment that I haven't totally figured out yet, mostly because I haven't proofed any bread since we've moved into the house. But there is the regular oven and then a proofing oven on the side and then a drawer at the bottom. We chose to move into a house that was 80 years old, and this is the original stove here at the house. I love that we were able to downsize in price and keep everything really budget friendly when we moved. The first recipe I'm going to talk about is a Tater Tot Casserole, which Mike was asking for. I was able to make this a little bit quicker because I pulled out some ground beef with onions and zucchini in it that I had already cooked, and it was in the freezer. So I was able to add that to some fresh green beans, carrots, and celery and cook it all in the pan. And then instead of using a cream of something kind of soup that is honestly just filled with additives and chemicals, I just added a little bit of cream cheese to the pan, and that was able to give that little bit of creaminess with a little bit of stock added in. And then I knew exactly what ingredients were in my dish. I have a chronic illness called reflective sympathetic dystrophy. We have a video on the channel about that, but I tried to avoid additives as much as I can, and we're also an allergy family, so I'm really particular about the ingredients that we're bringing into our household because I want to make sure it's safe for everybody. Now on this meat mixture with the veggies, I added the tater tots and some cheese, and then I was able to just take my always pan and take it straight from the stovetop and put it into the oven until the tater tots were cooked. So this is a great way to pack in a ton of veggies into your dish. You still have the protein, you're controlling the ingredients, and it's just really comforting to have a tater tot casserole. When we were moving, I found a picture of me with Santa Claus, and I was probably almost 4 years old in this picture, and I just thought it was a really fun thing to share. This is the only picture I have of me in childhood with Santa Claus, and we have quite a few pictures of Mike when he was little, so it's kind of fun to have those up on the mantle and be able to share them. We had some extremely busy days those couple days before Christmas break was happening for the team, and I was on the computer more than 12 hours that day. So I was so grateful. I had some minestrone soup in the freezer that I was able to pull out. We just posted a video about freezing soup, and so make sure that you're checking that out. I think that goes up a couple days before this video. It feels like you guys see me in the kitchen all the time, but I probably spend most of my day behind screens on my computer and on my phone, which I don't mind at all, but it's just part of what happens behind the scenes here is the hours and hours it takes to make sure that we get all the content out to you guys on a timely manner. In 2025, we posted over 150 videos here on YouTube. On this night, Mike actually went into the nearest big city to us, and he did the last of his Christmas shopping. Again, it was another day that I spent over 12 hours on the computer just trying to get everything ready for Christmas break. And so I was very grateful when he said that he wanted Panda Express and he brought me home dinner. So that was a fun treat that I was able to have some Panda Express which is not local to us. This was actually a 2-day process. I pulled out my large roaster and I made that turkey stock from the turkey carcass that I've had in the freezer since Thanksgiving. So I ended up making a first batch of the turkey stock, and then I went ahead the next day and made a second batch of this. Now this is something that I normally pressure can to make it shelf stable so I can have it just ready to go on my shelf. But since we've moved into this house, we haven't finished the rest of the basement yet. So our pantry isn't established in the basement yet. And I haven't done any pressure canning or canning projects since we've moved into the house in September. So the turkey stock that I was making this time, I was putting in jars and super cubes that ended up in the freezer, and I can pull that out for the next year as I use it. And I had turkey stock for dinner that night. I was just sipping on the broth. There is something going around in our family. Mike and I have done a really good job of not officially catching whatever it is, but everybody else seems to be sick, and I was just trying to just rest a little bit and drink some really healthy bone broth. So that's what I ended up having for dinner on this night. I was a little bit fatigued and then didn't have much of an appetite, but I never officially got sick. And the second day of cooking the turkey broth, I decided because it smelled so good, I wanted to make some soup. So that night I ended up making some tortilla soup, which is another recipe that is really great to freeze. But if you're going to freeze it, you want to make sure that you don't put the tortilla strips in until the end. So I love that I'm able to still make the tortilla soup, make it for us for dinner, and then be able to put some of it away in the freezer. And that way we're always having a rotation of soups. And the avocado that I had on the soup was actually left over from my November grocery shopping trip. So on the night that we had it, it was actually 5 weeks old. And I remember I filmed a little story for that to put it on Instagram that night because I was excited that it was a perfectly ripe avocado that was 5 weeks old, that was in my refrigerator, and I was able to have it for that meal and a couple days later. I always believe in having some fresh fruit food security in your home. So in the fall time, we normally get a large bushel or case of apples. And then as we move into December, we get oranges straight from the farm. And so our oranges arrived from the farm and we were so excited to get to start using these. I ended up making a roast with some of this fresh squeezed orange juice and a ginger teriyaki sauce, not officially teriyaki. I use coconut aminos because I'm allergic to soy, but it was this ginger teriyaki orange sauce that I put on the roast. And we had that just served over rice with some canned carrots. Now those are some of the last canned carrots I had from 2020 when I had pressure canned those, and they have been on my shelf ever since. So I was glad to be able to use up that jar of canned carrots. And I ended up making everything in the Instapot and the rice cooker. So just right at the end, I made that sauce to put over the top of it. And it was really easy. I only had a few minutes of prep time and we had a really lovely dinner. So now we are officially on Christmas break, and I tried really, really hard to avoid screens as much as I could. I still checked in on YouTube a couple times a day to make sure that I was answering all of your questions and comments, but I wasn't worried about filming every single thing that I was doing during Christmas break. I just really wanted to enjoy the time with our family and our new house here. But I do have some extra tips that I made sure that I filmed as we were going through the holidays. A couple days before Christmas, as I was making breakfast, I ended up going ahead and cooking 2 pounds of sausage. That way we were able to have that for breakfast that morning, and then I had what I needed for Christmas morning that I put in the refrigerator, and I was able to put some smaller portions in super cubes that I put into the freezer that I can pull out and just make eggs really easily with that. So instead of having to make a full breakfast on Christmas morning, I was able to get a little bit of that prep work done a few days ahead of time. And as I was trying to detox a little bit from screen time, I ended up doing an entire puzzle and it was missing a piece at the end. It was so frustrating. This is the second time that that's happened to me, and it seems like it's always right in the middle of the puzzle that the piece is missing. But anyways, I had a great time for a couple evenings to do the puzzle, and then we were listening to different Hallmark movies while I was doing it. I made some lemon chicken orzo that we have this recipe on the blog. It's a super easy recipe to use, especially if you already have cooked chicken that you can add to it. So I love having cooked proteins in the freezer that I could just pull out, and it makes dinner really simple. We had this for dinner, and then we had it for lunch, and I was reheating it on the stove with a trivet and a little bit of water, which was kind of funny because on that day also there was a news article that went out in a national paper about me and not having a microwave. I normally make cinnamon rolls for Christmas morning, but this year there has been a cinnamon roll snowflake that has been rising in popularity. So I wanted to make my own twist on this snowflake, and I ended up making this, and I love that I could put it in the refrigerator and it could rise slowly. So we were able to enjoy Christmas Eve. We went to a candlelight service and came home, and it was just so nice to be close to our family, and nobody had to travel very far for us to be all together. So the snowflake ended up rising in the refrigerator during the night, and then I pulled it out on Christmas morning that we were able to bake it and open up our presents all together, and it was just so much fun. And going back to Christmas Eve, we had Zuppa Toscana soup for dinner. This is something that we normally have on Christmas Eve for dinner or around Christmas time, but I had made it in the crock pot earlier in the day, and that way I didn't have to worry about it and knew that it would be all ready when we got home from the candlelight service. And I know there is a lot of soup recipes in this video, but it was because my entire family, besides Mike and I, had been dealing with an illness, a sickness, and all they wanted was soup, just to try to boost up my immune system so I didn't catch what they caught. Christmas dinner at our house always means lasagna, and this is like our family favorite. I love that I can put it together in less than 10 minutes and get it into the oven and just enjoy my time with the family. I used to make a really fancy Christmas dinner, and I realized I just didn't like having to spend all day in the kitchen and not in the living room with everybody else. For Christmas, I got a hand embroidery kit, and I have never really tried to do any needlework at all. And so this was so much fun to learn over the time between Christmas and New Year's. I spent a lot of time learning the stitches. My aunt was such a great sewer, and she tried to teach me how to sew when I was little, but I am left-handed and she is right-handed, and she would get so frustrated trying to teach me, which I'm kind of learning. I kind of use the needle a little bit more with my right hand than my left hand. I can go back and forth. I'm really ambidextrous with things. The only thing that I truly use all the time with my left hand is when I'm writing and a fork, but a knife, throwing the ball, all kinds of other things I do with my right hand. Learning embroidery is such a great thing to help keep my hands busy, as I was kind of trying to take a break from doing too many things in the kitchen and being on my phone all of the time. So I really wanted to do quiet things that I could during this Christmas break and then enjoy all the family time I could. On this morning, I actually woke up to a message from my aunt that she just saw a new day that Northwest was going to be replaying my episode when I was on their show. So I was one of the top episodes of 2025, and they were replaying it towards the end of the year. So we ended up spending the rest of that day packing orders for our Zero Waste Produce Guide book. We were shipping out the book to so many people in the Seattle area that were just meeting me for the very first time and buying the Zero Waste Produce Guide. Now that we have the oranges in the house, I am wanting to use up some of those apples. So I ended up making a big batch of applesauce that's going to go into the refrigerator, and with everybody around, it's going to get eaten up pretty quickly. Applesauce is something that you can water bath can and make it shelf stable. That is what I normally do. Again, I'm trying not to do any canning projects right now until our pantry is done. And I did keep a few apples behind for fresh eating apples to have as snacks. We like them with peanut butter most often, but they're really handy to have. And then I will probably do one more batch of applesauce in January or February. And I mentioned about having that rotation of fresh fruit in your house for food security. So how that rotation goes for us is we normally have the large batch of apples that come in the fall. Then we get oranges in the wintertime. And normally as those oranges are starting to get used up all of the way, then we normally have had berries out in our yard. We don't have a garden yet in this new house, but for the last 22 years, I was able to, in the spring and summer, just go out and get berries out of the yard that I had planted in our landscape and in our garden. And then as we move towards summer, I always have extra watermelon in the house. And that way we just keep this rotation of making sure that we always have fresh fruit, food security. And we still buy other produce items, but I like knowing that even if the grocery stores were empty, we still have something here in the house to feed the family. A couple days after Christmas, I ended up making a ham that I got. I had picked that up in December for my grocery shopping haul, and it was only $20, which we ended up having for dinner for the entire family for that night. And then I was able to chop up and slice up the rest of it and put it into the freezer that we're going to have for 6 more meals. I do this 2 times a year. Normally I do it around Christmas time and then around Easter or spring break time. And that way I can use the chopped up ham I have in the freezer for egg dishes, for pizza, for fried rice, all these different ways that I can repurpose that ham that doesn't make it feel like you're eating a holiday meal. And on this night, I ended up just taking some taco meat that I had in the freezer, and we made some baked tacos with some corn tortillas that I still have from my September grocery shopping trip. Those end up lasting about 9 months in the pantry, so it's really great to be able to use them whenever you need to, but they don't go bad so easily. And I was able to have the baked tacos, which just cooked in the oven, and I could keep working on my embroidery projects. I did use the last of the avocado oil that I had in the kitchen when I was making the tacos, and that is when I opened up the new container of avocado oil. And when I'm opening up the new container, that's when it goes on my grocery shopping list. So I know sometime in the next 2 to 3 months, I need to make sure that I purchase more avocado oil or more olive oil, whatever you use, but it's when I'm opening up that container, not when it's almost empty. And somebody was just asking the other day on our enchilada video if you could use corn tortillas if you're gluten-free and make the same recipe. And I was giving some tips to make sure that they don't break. If you are dipping it lightly in some oil or some enchilada sauce, if you're doing it that way, it will help it not break. And then you can also double up the tortillas. That's what they do in most restaurants when you go to make them. So you can use either kind of method, but you can totally swap out whatever kind of tortillas that you want to use. And with these baked tacos, we ended up having some Greek yogurt. I don't buy sour cream. I just use Greek yogurt for everything. And then we had received some cherry salsa for Christmas that we were having with us. And we also had some chopped onions and some chopped peppers on top of the baked tacos. I also made some black beans to go with these. Mike has just decided in the last year that he likes black beans, so that has been kind of something fun that we've been able to have a little bit more. For New Year's Eve, I ended up making some scalloped potatoes. That was something that one of my kiddos had asked for. We had some sliced ham with that I had made a couple days prior to that. And then we had some hot bacon spinach salad with the scalloped potatoes, and everybody was really excited, and we had the best New Year's Eve party with the family. We celebrated it a few hours early, so everybody was awake and really happy, and it was just such a great thing to close out this year all together. So that's a wrap of 2025 and this meal series that we have been doing. Now I have decided to go ahead and do this again in January for 2026, but we're going to put it on a new playlist. So 2025's videos are on one playlist, and this is number 25 of that. And then in January of 2026, we are going to start Meals and Moments and just really kind of show you a little bit more of our behind the scenes life with these meals that we're making and continue teaching you how to save money on groceries. If you're interested in getting our Zero Waste Produce Guide, here is our book and our planners. There are 5 different covers of our meal planners, and this is how I keep track of all the ingredients I have in my house and the meals that I'm making. And that way I can go back and look over years and years of things that I've made for dinner and to be able to pull out items that I already know that my family likes. Make sure that you check out both of these. They are linked in the description with a discount code. Most of all, I want to say thank you for being here and Happy New Year's.